Well, I live in the mountains, you know, and I guess my internet isn't always reliable. Don't always have good bars on my phone. It's just kind of the reality of the process, but I promise to be patient if you do. You know, and we'll get through the process together. That said, I'm just going to kind of hang out and wait for the stream to build up a little bit before we continue, so that we don't miss anything there. You know, this process has been an interesting one as far as how to present the information online. When I first came to the conclusion that that's what I wanted to do, to where we are now, where it kind of motivated me to build this. And it happened so fast once I made the decision that it was literally just hours. And it was really just a matter of the time it took to cut the cardboard. And the cardboard got cut the night before on a stream, when my intent is to kind of do a little kind of mini workshop on building your own deck, like a little mini oracle. It didn't go 100% as I originally planned, just based on time and some other things, so that was an unfortunate reality. But what happened is, the next day I had all this extra cardboard, and then this thing happened, with this motivation to make this happen came to me. And I went with it, and this is the result of that. The deck's done after all these years of me. One day I'll make a deck. I've told myself that over and over again, and I had some ideas about the way to present it, and I've used this deck in various forms over the years in my own work that I've done very similarly with cardboard or paper, usually paper, and drawn the symbols. And then used it in conjunction with tarot, mostly, and by itself individually. And so, whatever compulsed me to share it, to make a new one, and to add some things to it that I didn't originally plan on sharing, because I just came to the conclusion that if I'm doing it right, my goal here is to use the opportunity of the channel and this technology that we have to get the word out in a way that I wouldn't normally be able to, because of geography and other reasons. So I have had the experience of entering the inner sanctum, of achieving conversation with my higher self. I've achieved soul talk, and I believe that I can elicit that experience in others. I 100% do, and I've done it before. Bottom line, it's coming from a place of empirical evidence. I've done it, and so I know I can do it again, and I believe I can do it tonight. If time allows, if my technology holds up. I just want to say, if we have weather issues and my internet goes out again, or we lose power, then I can't I can't guarantee anything. I have considered recording it as a video and then just posting the video, but I feel like there's a certain energy in the live stream that is different and is better with what I'm trying to do. So, yeah. In the meantime, let's pop over to the subjects tonight. We're going to be talking about Meet the Courts here in a minute. This segment used to be called Meet the Deacons, and typically what we were talking about is the idea of the decadent, which is the 10-degree periods of time that the ancients originally had cut up with the intent of understanding their place a little bit better in the world, right? They had this compulsion of separating up their world so that they understood it a little better, right? And so one of the ways that they would do that is they would cut the sky up into 12, because of the number of moon cycles and the time it took the Earth to go around once, right? Or They cut it up a lot of different ways, right? And one of the ways that they did that is they cut it up into the 10-degree periods. And those 10-degree periods emerged due to the 360 degrees of a circle into these 10-degree, what's called deacons. Right. So yesterday's talk, we talked about applying the algorithm, essentially, to your readings, which was a lot of fun. And now today, what we're going to wind up doing is introducing you to the deacons in a little more intimate level. We had a nice little story that we told with respect to... that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I wanted to do either. That's what I wanted to do. Sorry about that. With respect to the march of the courts, it was a fun story, and it's a great little explanation of why I do the reading the way that I do it. That reading is it's mine. I developed it over the years as a way to get a very good snapshot of the energies of an individual's birth and their karmic trajectory based on that process. The unfolding of that story, very similar to what we talked about in the prior part of the stream, in the first segment, is the idea of mythology and the importance of studying mythology, and it being essentially a ritualistic reenactment of a very holy event reflected in our world through characters, right? And that, if played out properly, actually rises the same energy. And so it's a beautiful way to create real change. And the story of the March of the Courts, this reading, this spread, which again, I feel free to contact me if you want to learn how to do it. I didn't reveal 100% of the spread. I plan on doing that in a training sessions with people who are serious and are interested in learning the real art of the tarot. And it utilizes this, and it utilizes 2 decks. Okay, so the real spread takes 2 decks and this as an addition. And that spread, it was in the stream yesterday. Let me see if I can get up the story here while we're kind of stuck in waiting mode due to the stream dropping. How's my internet looking right now? Okay, it's still live. I don't remember where I put them. It was in yesterday's. Luana, wow, I'm glad you made it back. I'm looking for a specific the march from yesterday. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. That took me a minute to find those. The software I'm using is I really, due to the level of urgency of getting this information out as quickly as possible, with the intent of waking up as many as possible. It's pretty clunky, and so it's a little hard for me to navigate sometimes, and I appreciate everyone's patience in my process. But this is the march of the courts for my birthday. And so, this is a very powerful spread. Let's just put it that way. And the way to truly unlock it is to utilize the system that I'm talking about here. It's the system that includes the 2 decks, and what I talked about is 2 very different decks. Which again, as I progress through this process of developing this as a mass market actual deck, which is it's happening now. It's already begun that process. I will be making those. Not now. Right now, I'm going to focus on this, and I have a lot of really good recommendations for the others. So, for instance, my first recommendation is for various reasons. the Hermetic Tarot, which is a Golden Dawn based tarot. It's black and white. Okay, and the cards they have a lot of very good information related to some deep stuff. And so this is not a beginner's deck, okay, by any stretch. Although, if you did approach it as a beginner, there's some really good stuff in here. And if you just even meditate on the cards, you can get some really good insight. But just keep in mind it's black and white, and that's the important point, okay? It's black and white. That's the important point. Now, the second deck that I have is the Spotlight. This is Milo DuQuette's Tarot of Ceremonial Magic, right? And now this deck is the colored version of this 2-deck system. 3, really, if you consider the piece in between. It's a color deck. And it's a very good tool for Magick and tarot and all these things because of the way he presented the information on the cards, where the deacons are right there, which is really great. The elementals, and the Enochian stuff, the Goetic. This comes from the Decadent, the Venus and Aries type stuff. All this stuff is great. There's some good stuff on the back too, which I'll allow you to explore on your own. Just look up Tarot Ceremonial Magic card back and have fun. And then you get into the court cards, have the I Ching, the period of time, and some other information that's relevant to the courts as opposed to the small cards, the deacons, right? Because the deacons are the advisors to the queen in our story here, right? So, that said, another word for them would be what's an advisor? Advisors are known for their knowledge and their wisdom. And it's interesting, the Queen has 3 advisors, 3 wise guys that advise her. Right? 1 tarot, 1 oracle, you can say. Yeah, 2 tarot and 1 oracle. Although this one here in the middle is, and I've said it before, and it does sound lofty, but that's okay because it happens to be true. What this is the entirety of the system of tarot, 100%, all of it. There's nothing missing. It's the entire Bible. It's the entire Kabbalah. It's all here, and that's the truth told openly. It's not some kind of like symbolic poetic language that you have to kind of weed through to. No, what I just said is the literal truth, that this little package of cardboard has the entirety of the knowledge available from the Bible, the Kabbalah, from physics, mathematics. Everything's there. It's the story of everything, and it's also a distilled down, pure version of the tarot, right? And we're going to look at it as soon as I let this kind of gel for a minute, because my stream dropped, my internet went down, and I had to wait for it to kind of start back up, obviously, and so I'm waiting for people to kind of pop in. And then we're going to be using this tonight to meet the court cards, right? And these are beautiful. The story here is really a powerful one when you let yourself have it. And consider the placement of these cards when you consider what we're going to look at in just a moment. And the idea of the march of the courts, and the idea of who they really are. It's inevitably there's going to be a percentage of the people who visit my channel that are interested in the tarot from a practical perspective, that's my wheelhouse. Communicating the usage, the how is my thing. That's my compulsion. That's my charge. That's my destiny. That's my karma, is to communicate truth in a way that is actionable, right? And so I like talking about the concepts of tarot, and I like talking about the theory. I love it. I'm a nerd first, but I want to be able to turn it into something that is a tool for you to use. Move it from the 3 to the 4 in the Celtic cross. right? That's what we're trying to do here. That's the goal. And so take this knowledge that all of us already know. I'm not here to teach you anything new. I'm here to remind you of what you forgot you already knew. And so, we're going to look at a couple of things, but and I'm only going to use a couple of examples of some cards from the color deck in this particular segment, and we're going to look at the Soul Talk deck with respect to the difference in the symbolism of this new. I did say some things with respect to it. Some of it was in jest, and some of it isn't. Anything I said tonight, there's no jest. It really is the totality of human knowledge that's accessible to the senses. The idea of the symbols here is that there's a difference between the tarot that we know and the tarot that could be if we allowed ourselves to be open to it. And I believe, there's a part of me that believes, like I know that I'm not the only one to have thought this, and that there is some secret to it. Although I'm not privy to that secret. So this is my work, and if it happens to be some kind of like internal secret in some organization, like I said, there's my number, I'm in. But otherwise, I believe that there's a very profound secret in the knowledge that's tied up to here, and it can be used as tarot. Now, I want to be clear. This is not meant to be used for a divinatory tool. That's not why I designed it. That's not why I said let's get it on paper yesterday, and I pushed it out in like 3.5, 4 hours, based on the culmination of 40 years of knowledge and 20 years of this truth that I came to, that I started doing this on my own. This is 20 years old, the idea, and it became born yesterday. So the idea for this is not to read the tarot, and it's not to read the future, right? It's not. What it is to elicit an experience in you that allows you to craft the key to open the door to the inner sanctum and enter, allowing you conversation with your higher self. That's it. That's what it's designed to do. And it can be used in conjunction with tarot, and because it is the tarot. It can be used in conjunction with your Bible, because it is the Bible. It can be used in conjunction with your Torah, because it is the Torah. It's a beautiful Pentateuch. So, and you can, it's meant to be used in conjunction with Sefer Yetzirah. So, let's take a look at the stream here real quick and see where we are. I'm getting a little chilly. The weather's changing. Ooh, I love it. I love it. Who loves the weather right now? Who's with me? I'm going to go put my hoodie on real quick. That's better. Yeah, it got chilly. So it looks like I'm going to begin. Anyone I think was gonna pop back in is probably here, and so I'm just going to take that and run with it. And so this particular segment is Meet the Deacons, right? And so as I've been saying, there's an idea of the March of the Deacons. This is my spread that talks about the story of the court cards. And more importantly, it's not. It's a mythological reenactment of your creation, and the courts are the actors. Okay? That's the truth told openly. Now, I've been, keeping little things as secret, and I am a romantic, and I use poetic language because I feel it's very effective in getting in there, And that's the goal here, is to take this information and make it actionable so that you're able to use it. And the way to do that is to, like, it's like memorizing your times table. Only what this system does is it happens instantly. It's not like you have to sit and read it and memorize it. It's the knowing happens, and it's permanent, and it's instant. But so just to reiterate, this is the story of your creation, told by the actors of the courts. And so what we're looking at, which is really beautiful, let's now jump to the deck. And look at the court cards. Okay, now what I'm going to wind up doing in the deck when it's sold, like when I have it ready to like put out, is the box will be a real box. This is literally a piece of cardstock that I cut into a right, and just to have, because I needs to be done, get the information out, and so it's a Sharpie and some cardstock, and this is the original information that I put into graphical form in order to demonstrate for the stream, right? And it's actually kind of a usable version of a piece of the deck. Okay. Let's put this up here, just for now. Okay. And now we have the deck, right? The deck has I added some cards from yesterday, right? And they're not new. I just doubled up on the elements. Now, the reason that I did that is that whenever I've used this, which is hundreds of times in my life, since I started, since this came to me 20 years ago, I typically draw one of the element cards, which we'll see in a moment. And then I wind up inevitably, when I'm in the middle of the work, grabbing something else, like usually a post-it note, because post-its are good for like sticking and staying, and they're quick and just like, and so oh yeah, I want 2 more of those, or I want one of those, and then so I'll just do that during the process. And I thought, let me just add it to the deck so that it's part of the process. And so it added 4 more cards to it, and then so it added it made the total number 27. The total number of cards in the deck is 27. Okay. So, that said, let's look at the deacons. And I should review my notes during this process. Okay, and so you'll notice that this is the meat and the bones of what we're going to be discussing through this process, right? And then we have the cards, right? The cup, the pentacle, another pentacle, a sword, some wands, more cups, right? And so on. And there's these symbols on top and on the bottom, those 4 symbols. Okay, and each one is a little different in the artwork, like there's a little different kind of connotation. Okay, and then we're going to get to the elements. Okay, and so we have, and then at the end, let's see, we have the other, that's for later. Okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So just to break it down, because just like the tarot, the tarot has several different types of cards, right? The tarot has the majors, which are broken up into 3 sections of the 3 major elements, the 7 planets and the 12 signs. And that's 22 majors, right? And then there's the 16 court cards, and then there's the small cards, right? The 36 small cards. The small cards are the 2 through 10s. Then you have the courts, or then the ace, basically. So it's, the 40 plus the 16 plus the 22, and we get the whole. So now there's different types, right? And so now the elements are very similar to the aces. They're not aces, but they are. These are the aces. And instead of having, wand, cup, sword, like ace of wand, ace of cup, ace of sword, I kind of always envision that as the idea of that the ace or the is not here yet. It's in a transitional phase. It's not manifest. And so they're not a thing. It's not a cup. It's not a sword. It's the energy that will turn into a cup or turn into a sword, but it isn't yet. So that said, it's a symbol rather than, right? And what is the symbol? It's the symbol of listening. So incoming arrows coming in, right? And you'll see that there's some of the court cards, which they're not court cards, but they are. There's 16 of them on purpose, that have that symbol, the arrow pointing in. All right, here's a wand that's receiving. All right, it's in a state of listening. Listening is receiving sound. And I have two, right? There's two of these. One for the upper and one for the lower world, basically. But then we have speaking. This is the idea of speaking. Speaking is the opposite of listening, from a degree. There's sort of two sides of the same coin. It's not really the opposite. The opposite of listening is ignoring, drowning out, not necessarily speaking. Right? Speaking and listening are the same but different. Drowning out or ignoring is the opposite. There's the same idea of like love and hate are opposites, but they're not. They're two sides of the same coin. The opposite of love is indifference, which is also the same. Opposite of hate is indifference. So love and hate are the same coin, and then the opposite of that coin is indifference. Now, indifference also has another opposite side, doesn't it? It's like another coin with another side. Love and hate, indifference, and... So, that's the idea here, all right? And now we'll see some cards that have that as well, and these are outward pointing arrows. We have inward pointing arrows and outward pointing arrows. Pretty basic stuff, right? Like, this is not... it's not physics. Oh, wait, yes it is. Okay. It's everything. It's literally all human knowledge in one little pack of cardboard. And that's the beauty. Here's a beautiful truth. That you can only describe simple things using complicated language. And you can only describe complicated things using simple language. And that's why the tarot, which is trying to explain a complicated thing, is effective, but it keeps you seeking. Because it's a little too complicated. It needs to be a little more, and I don't mean complicated as far as using, I mean the symbol system. If you just whittle it down enough so you get to that sweet spot of where it's enough to elicit that communication, something interesting happens and you don't need the cards anymore. You get to interrogate your universe using your eyes, because you are now in a state of receiving in the mind the heart of God, and in the heart the mind of God, and then giving back and forth. And so you can look at anything and see the truth in it. You don't need the cards any longer. And that's what we're here to do, is to get you to that point. So then if we keep going, well, let's find somebody that's speaking. Who's speaking? Here's someone speaking. Here's a cup speaking. This cup has something to say. All right, see the arrows pointing out in both directions? Okay, good stuff. All right, so that's another element. It's speaking. Okay. Let me move this actually. Put that up there. Okay. I'm trying to make space here to help this process along. I have a very small space, as you can imagine. This is, what's that, like, 14 by 8? Something like that. Okay. Okay, and now we have rejecting. Okay. And rejecting is the idea of the person speaking being ignored, willfully or not. In some cases, that rejection is willful, and in some cases, it's not. Right? In some cases, you are ignoring or are in a position of not wanting to hear out of anger or revenge or whatever reason. There's a willful reason that you don't want to hear, even if it's justified, right? But you're deciding. It's out of choice, decision. Sometimes you reject because, for instance, here's a good example. Somebody's speaking and you are in a room with a loud television and you don't hear them. And so although they're speaking, they're not heard. You are rejecting. And why are you rejecting? Because you're the target of their speech. And so we have a plus and a minus. And so what we have is a line, and that line means no. It's just a blockage. It's like a wall that stops it from coming in. It prevents hearing. But then there's a plus on the outside ring, and that plus means the choice to block. The positive, you're deciding to not hear. You are rejecting whatever is being presented to you, the phenomena that is in your presence, willfully. Whereas the line delineates that you are rejecting, but it's not your fault. You're not participating in that rejection. Okay? And the final element, this 4, lament, mourning, crying. It's the idea of the reaction to the loss. And so what we have, and to loss to what? The desire to bestow, to give inward, similar to this. Arrows pointing in, only in this case, there's a wall in the way blocking you, right? So there's desire to give, but that wall stops it from happening. Okay? So it wants to bestow to the middle, but these lines are preventing that from happening. And that is lamenting. The desire to give with the blockage. Sadness. Okay. And now obviously in the finished deck, these are going to be clean, vector, and not too artsy, because the point is to keep it distilled, so that because the goal here is to just get to the pure truth of the knowledge, like not add anything that isn't necessary. Okay? So just to be clear, listening, speaking, rejecting, lamenting, receiving, giving, denying, crying, reflecting. There's a number of words. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But you get the idea. These are the elements. These are the gifts that the courts bestow, that they utilize. The princess bestows. Then the other courts use those tools to manifest reality, to make things. They make stuff. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything quickly. Again, this is only the second stream ever that I've made notes. Yep. Okay, we talked about that. Yep. Yeah, that poor king. Okay. There is one note I put in here with respect to the opposite of lament. The opposite of lament. Let's just ask the chat real quick. Missy gets it. The idea here is that the opposite of lament, which means like crying, is not happiness, is not joy. You'd think it is. Joy and lament are the same as two sides of the same coin, and there's an opposite of both of those things, right? And so the opposite of listening is speaking is not true, right? The opposite of listening and speaking together as a coin with two sides is rejection. Okay, I hope that. Now, the opposite of lamenting is not joy. Joy and lament are the same thing. The opposite of lament is grateful. Okay, does that? Because you're grateful. In lament, you are sad for the loss. Sad for the loss. The opposite is happy for the gain. What's another word for happy for the gain? Grateful. Right, so what we're looking at here is a psychological device with the ability to communicate the whole of human emotion. Every human emotion possible can be communicated as an interplay of these elements. And when you understand the idea of the system of the three, opposites come in threes. Every opposite that you think is an opposite is the truth in secret. The inner sanctum is that there's a third that's actually the opposite of those two combined as a coin, as an example. So they're listening and speaking are opposites. Can we agree? Listening and speaking are opposites. I'm talking, you're listening. And those are, but no, that's one thing. And the opposite of that is rejection. Not listening, but not talking. I'm rejecting the whole thing. Okay? So just to be clear, and that's why these cards are useful. This is why you buy a deck like this, or make one. Which again, anyone who wants to, sometime on a private, I'd be happy to walk you through building it. You can do, screenshots if you want, but walk you through building it and talk you through the basics, and you can discover a lot on your own. But just to be clear on what we're talking about here, the opposite of listening and speaking, these two are opposites. But they're not. They're two of the same, and the opposite is rejection. Okay? So you can go through the process, and I encourage you to do this. I'm not going to go through the live stream today, but I encourage you to go through the process of pairing up the opposites that you think that make sense, and then consider them as one thing and look for the actual true opposite. Here's another truth told openly. Every duality has a third. Okay, that's a Michael axiom. Okay, there's a 3 to every 2. Now, so these are the elements that are offered by the courts. Wow. Yep. We all go through some of those, and if we're lucky, you have the opportunity to grow from that. Like realize, oh crap, I could have done that better, right? That could have gone a little better, and we have an opportunity there. So let's look at the courts. Let's meet the courts. We have some different ideas here, and what I'm going to do is line it up in the divine order. There is a divine order, and that divine order was what led to the beginning of the knowledge here. It's the thing that woke me up 20 years ago to the true truth. I lived for a long time, and I thought I was smart, and I was, but I thought I was smart. I lived in the inner order for 20 years practically, so long before having this realization 20 years ago. I lived in the state of the truth told in secret and had no idea I had no idea. And then this hit me and I realized I had no idea. And now I knew. And the order, the divine order, is the secret that unlocked that for me 20 years ago. The idea of the difference between the, which leads to the vortex. The order and the vortex are the same, but the order of the numbers compared to the order of the elements creates a counter-rotating force that creates an energy field that is the source of, you know, I mean, they're looking for the Higgs boson. It's not the Higgs boson that creates gravity. It's not the Higgs boson that gives rise to the particle at the string level, below the string level. It's the counter-rotating friction that causes a force, a field, between these two forces. That vortex gives birth to everything, right? And so there is a divine order. That order matters. That's why it's in this, even on the box. And the paper is going to wind up being, the deck will be wrapped around a diagram of the wheel for you to reference. So you can have the deacon wheel along with the deck. That's an important piece. And, you know, because again, it's not a deck. This is not a deck. It's a system that includes a couple pieces. It includes the deck, includes the deck in it. It includes 2 tarot decks and some other tools just to kind of really drive this point home so that you're able to wake up. And if you are compulsed, share it. Use it to wake other people up. It is the new Bible. It is. It's not, well, let me rephrase that. It can be used to unlock the Bible. It's the new code for unlocking the Bible of the new era, this new age that we're moving into, this feminine energy. Which, by the way, I don't know if anyone, and I'm about to show you what I'm about to say, and the proof of it. God's a woman. And we're moving into a new age, not of an old one. And the old age is a masculine energy. That's where all this war and hate is coming from. And it was important in the beginning. It was necessary for creation to take place in a certain way. So, you know, we have to kind of be open to the fact that even though it was bad and it's getting worse, it's because it's the death throes of the old age and it's dying loud. And that's okay. It's still going to die, and we're going to move forward. And we're going to emerge into a world of understanding. And if we are strong enough to make it into the inner sanctum prior to that happening, when the age comes, we'll be fine. It'll be no big deal. It's going to be used to it. We're going to be kind of carrying the age forward, and hopefully taking as many as we can with us into this place of stop hating each other and recognizing that when we speak, it's divine talking to itself. This is divine looking at itself, and we can't forget that. And so that's what we're talking about here. So the deacons are the 16 cards, and what I'm going to do is put them in the divine order. And what is the divine order? Well, I have it here. The divine order is this. Right? This is what we're taught is the tarot. This is the order of the tarot that we're all taught. Wand, cup, sword, pentacle, in that order, right? That's the divine order. And so it is incumbent upon us to respect the divine order, and I do. And now the reason that I do is because the math works. Like, it's not just an arbitrary, it's an arbitrary order that was chosen by somebody a while back, whatever the case. There's a reason, right? And so let's just put it in order. And basically all the bestowal card, or the reception cards, are on the bottom. Receiving. Right? These are the cards of listening. Okay? And they have to be in the divine order. Right? And let's put our little diagram out. This card is part of the deck, and there's 2 of them. But, right, so this is the descent card. Okay? And you'll see all those on the bottom here. So what we've done here is recreated this scene. This is one card of a scene happening. This isn't just a diagram. This is a whole scene actually occurring. Kind of like another tarot card with the people standing and there's stuff in the background and clouds. This is an actual scene of these elements that are kind of energetically making the shape for you. Like, just, you have to kind of imagine it that way, because it's a good way to picture it in your and to create a form in your mind. This is an actual scene happening. And what we've done now is that we've created a a representation of that, a story, like the March of the Quartz. The March of the Quartz is the story of your creation told as a mythological tale with the quartz as the actors. What we're looking at here is the same thing but for the universe. And this is the descent, meaning it's the beginning of that process, just prior to the Big Bang. Okay? And now these are the bestowal cards, and they have to be in the divine order. And that is the wand upright, the wand of bestowal upright. This is the wand of bestowal. Then we have the sword of bestowal pointed down. And then we have the cup pointed down, the cup of bestowal. Okay. And then we have the pentacle of bestowal. Okay, and you'll see the beautiful little picture that this paints. From above, the higher self pouring the wand down onto the lower self and igniting it with the will of the higher self. Up here we have the wand of the higher divine intelligence, installing its mind into the heart of the profane. Here we have the cup of bestowal, pouring down and washing the sword of profanity. The divine mind, or divine heart, washing the profane mind. And then here we have the divine pentacle and the profane pentacle basically combined in unison, right? That's why on here I have it like there's a 5 and then another kind of fuzzier 5, and so it creates that 10 right there. Okay. It basically turns this into a 10. This together in this state turns this into a 10. So only in this state. You'll notice it's a different pentacle over here and over there, right? And it's different here, only here. It turns it into a 10. But you'll notice the beauty here. There's so much that can be seen and derived from just this circumstance. And now there's another scene. The ascent, right? The ascent, going back up. Instead of descending, we're ascending. And there's a totally different order. The order has changed. If you want to know why, go to a prior stream or call me. And I do plan on doing training, and obviously the story will be told in the probably the pack. In the fold-out diagram, you'll have the deacon wheel as well as the march of the deacon's deck explanation, or the spread. Just to be clear, the March of the Deacons is another way to unlock conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. This is not just a spread for telling the future. That's not what it's designed to do. What this is designed to do is to literally awaken who you are for real. This is your soul talking to you. And it gives you the ability to hear it in the proper way. You can't hear the voice of your soul with your ears. So this is a tool to allow you to do that. And that said, this is a very important component of discovering yourself. And the results of that is incalculable. I mean, but so there's a second scene here, which is the ascent. And what we have to do is look at that as well. Now, all these are essentially court cards. There are 16 court cards, right? And now, if you look at the march here, right, there's only 4. There's those 2 on the end, and let's not look at those for right now, because that's the past queen and the future prince. The past queen and the future prince. Okay? If there's any Kabbalists in the room, you'll understand what that means and why that means God's female first. Actually, you know what? Let me do the God's female first. I forgot to drive the point home. Okay, here's the divine order on the bottom. Here's the divine order on the top. If you want to know why, go to the other stream or call me, and I'm happy to reveal it. It's not a secret any longer. It was until I revealed it, and now it isn't. So that said, these all kind of move through a progression that starts with the wand. Everything starts with the will. That single dot, right? That's why I have it depicted here as a dot. And then the line. And then the surface. And then 3-dimension. Okay? So the idea is the will is the beginning of all of this. If you look at the elemental symbol for speaking, which, don't forget, God spoke the universe into existence. This is the 3 dimensions. Up, down, left, right, in and out. This is 3D. God speaking 3D into existence, right? So that said, what we're referring to here is the beginning of that process. Everything starts with God, who is the initial will to make it happen, okay? So just remember that. The wands are the will. This is the profane lower world. This is the upper world. This is the will of God, or your higher self. This is the will of human beings down here, or the lower self, your body. This is your body. This is your mind. This is your heart. This is your soul. This is your higher self's body, your higher self's heart, your higher self's mind, and your higher self's soul. Now just consider the fact that, as I've spoken about at length on the channel here, as we ascend, everything rotates and flips upside down. Okay? That's one of the reasons why when this descends, they flip upside down and they flip as well. So the cup flipped to the sword, and then they turned upside down, okay? But the wand and the pentacle stay because they're pinned to the pillars. They don't move because they're pinned. Now, what that means is that everything we think we see in heaven, quotes, the higher world, our true self, is actually opposite. So what that means is that when we look up and see the Father, what we're really looking at is the Mother, and we just don't realize it. That'll make more sense later for those who are new to this idea. But basically everything in heaven is opposite of what we think it is. As it's traveling down and we're traveling up and we meet in between, it appears opposite to us. And so because of that, we think God is a man. We call it the Father. Let's be honest here. What births things into existence? Women do. A woman said the word to birth the universe into existence. God is a woman. And we are its product. We are the product. So, it's a feminine wand. That's why I drew it as a vagina. That wasn't an accident. Okay? The fact of this wand is that in heaven, quote unquote, the higher self, the upper world, things are opposite from the way they look. Up there, she's up there going, I am your mother. And we hear Father. Oh, okay. God the Father spoke to me. God the Father. God the Father. What's the opposite of that? Self, the Mother. That's right. Everyone that's watching this is a woman in their higher self. And their higher self is the Creator who spoke the word into existence and gave birth to all of this. By the way, thank you. And we're all just a little piece of that shattered on the way down. I am her. You are her. We are all her. Okay? God's a woman. So, I just wanted to clarify. You don't say God's a woman without explaining it. Everyone says it like some poetic thing. Oh, God's a woman. Well, now you can say, whoa, there's this dude on the internet that was like, he created a tarot deck and was trying to, and decided that he was going to explain why God's a woman, and it turns out it's true. Very ancient, deep Kabbalistic secret. Bottom line, God's a woman. It's a secret. Why do you think the church doesn't want you to know any of this? The coming Messiah is a female. So, all right, these are the court cards. And the court cards, as we know, and there's only a couple there, but let's look at the idea of the court cards here, right? The courts all have a suit. And there's a couple represented here. We have a couple pentacles, right? The queen and one of her advisors, one of the wise guys. There's three of them. The 10 of pentacle, the 10 of wand, the 2 of pentacle, and the 3 of pentacle are her advisors. Why? Because of the wheel. I did this for my period of time, and during the period of the Queen of Pentacle, which you'll see is right here, the 3 deacons are the 10 of wand, the 2 and the 3 of disc, right? Okay, so that's not an arbitrary number that I picked to determine, like, to build this spread. Okay, all these cards are right where they belong, and she's relying upon them to advise her due to the death of her husband, the king. Right, and so those 3 wise guys advise her, and the elements matter. What are the elements? Okay. Rejection, lament, speaking, listening. Okay. Now, each one of the courts is each one of these. The court cards are these. And there's a total of 16. Let's just go through the process here. Right. Here's the first 8. Let's just keep those arrows sticking out. Those arrows are placed there on purpose so that you can manipulate the cards in such a fashion that you can view them this way to see the interaction, view them this way to see the interaction from the bottom, right? View them from the side to see what's going on, right? So these are very, very effective for that means, and that's one of the reasons that I liked making them as cards instead of, like, for so many years I just did it on paper, and I was thinking, like, why am I doing it on paper? You know how much ink and paper you go through drawing a square and then putting a symbol and then progressing to the next stage and doing it. You know, I did it for years until I said, man, I'm doing cards. I'm just gonna, and then I started doing this as as an individual in my own work. So those are there on purpose for a specific reason, and it makes the working easier. Then there's the other 8 court cards, and we're gonna line them up in the ascent. Okay, and you'll see that this is a different order than the other one, than the descent. These 2 are different, right? And so we're working on this one right now. This is the stage of listening. This is the stage of speaking. This is the stage of descent, the stage of ascent. Descend, listening. Ascend, speaking. Who's speaking? Who's listening? All right. Well, let's do it this way. Okay. All right. Now, sorry, I wasn't expecting to wear a hoodie, so I'm like bumping stuff. Now we have more cards to lay out very quickly, and now in this case, we have the rejected. That is in the state of lament. Okay, so we're going to find all the rejected cards. That's the ones with the arrow that wants to bestow but can't. Right? So this is the idea of lament. I want to give, but they won't let me. I'm speaking, but they won't hear. I want, but I can't have. And there's an order. So we're going to start with the wand. We need the wand of lament. The wand of lament. The desire to give the flame, but it's stopped, and so it goes out, right? So the flame isn't able to be given. It's rejected. Then we have the sword. I'm going to consolidate these for space. Okay. The upside down sword. Right. It's upside down. And it's of lament. Then we need the cup of lament, which is also going to be upside down. And then the right side up pentacle of lament. It can also be called the pentacle of speaking, because it is trying to speak, but speaking isn't really accurate because it's not being heard. So speaking is accurate because there is an intention, but it's not being heard. Whereas the other one is speaking, and being heard doesn't matter. It doesn't care if it's being heard. Right? You can speak with the intent of being heard, or you can speak because you feel like speaking. Just to declare your intention without a specific target. Crying out into the wilderness. And then the pentacle of lament. That's the pentacle of lament. Isn't that beautiful? Looks sad, doesn't it? Okay. Can you see the idea? Okay, and then down here we have the, obviously, and then we have to respect the placement here. Right. This is the divine order. Okay. Right. And each one of these is a court card. That's what I'm getting at. Each one of these is a court card. Now, let's just close these up. And if you look at the end game here, it's actually kind of, you know, the beginning and the end. Okay. But so in the meantime, though, what we need to do, and I'm not going to right now, but what we need to do is if we need to determine, okay, well, who's who? Okay, so let's look at the Page of Cup. The Page of Cup. And this is all you get. I'm going to do one card and then we're going to move on. The Page of Cup is one of these cards. Which one is she? She's one of them. What does the cup do? The cup is empty, waiting to be filled by something. It's a container, like it's listening. Okay, so I'm going to say she's listening. So the Page of Cup is the pentacle, or sorry, yes, the Page of Cup is the cup of listening. There she is. She takes it in and then gives it back out to the world. It falls down into the world. The Page of Cup takes in... Where's my descent? The divine mind into itself and then pours the rest out into the world. Okay? That's the Princess of Cup. The Page of Cup. Okay? Everyone catch that? How I determine that this is the Page of Cup? Some would say that she is the Page of Bestowal because she's trying to give the... But no. Alright, and so you get the idea. That's the only one, and then we can go through the others if you want. If you're interested in actually learning this, contact me. Email me. Or text me at that number. You can leave a voicemail if you want to call it and leave a voicemail. It's good stuff. I'm not kidding that this deck is literally the whole totality of human knowledge in one little packet, one little pile of cardboard, you know. And 3.5 hours of just the time it took to get it out. The knowledge, you know, it took some time to get there. It took 40 years, 46 to get there. And then here's, which we're going to get to tonight, when I decide I'm going to blow your minds. You go through the process here, and it's time to pop open and get into the inner sanctum. What this does is not, it doesn't give you the answer. Answers don't work. It gives you the truth. I can only open the door. You have to choose to walk through it. But seriously, that's kind of the idea. The idea here is that the most I can do is to use this process, and that's what I designed it to do. I specifically designed it to give you the tools through the conversation with me and this tool to craft the key to open the door. And you're going to do it tonight, and you have to do nothing but listen, and you are going to be able to do it. It's happening tonight, guys. You're going to enter the inner sanctum. Some of you will, not all of you. Some of you will. You need the ears to hear. This is it right here, and there's a couple of cards there. What are we looking at? What is going on? Can I give them a spoiler? Here's the back. Oh, psych. Okay, what about there? Anything there? No, I don't want to show you that one. Now, this one I did show yesterday, so, you know, that is part of this. This is the biggie. That's the biggie. What's that? Truth. Truth. What? The truth? What do you... Michael, now you're being overly dramatic. No, I'm not. None of this is a joke. None of it. Am I being dramatic? Perhaps. The dramatic reenactment of the truth in dramatic form raises the energy of that truth in the world. So, the idea we're trying to express here is never forget you're every one of these characters. They are interacting the story of your creation. They're also interacting the story of the creation of the universe. This is the story of reality. There it is. This spread is old. I've been using it for a long time. It's mine. I didn't read this in a book. I did not. I wasn't taught this by anyone. I don't. I feel like, you know, out of all the things that I've done in my life, I feel like this whole system is the one thing I can say I'm contributing. I'm sure there's knowledge in here that is new, and I'm sure that there's a lot that isn't. Some of it, I'm sure, may even be. Again, I'm not a member of these orders, but I believe some of this might wind up being secrets within societies. This idea of turning the order of the elements under the right circumstances when reading the cards accesses a totally different level of information, and unless you do that, it doesn't work properly. And so we're stuck. See, this is what we all thought the tarot was, right? Originally, I thought this was it. Like, you had all your that was it, right? Or in the correct order. This is what I thought the tarot was. You have these four suits, and you play your game of reading the cards, interpreting, looking at the different, however you read them, elements, numerology, astrology, whatever your system is for divinatory access. But turns out it's that. It's twice as big as you thought. And then it turns out it's actually way bigger than you actually thought. And what I'm here to do is to actually whittle that down to the point that you realize the ultimate truth. Which this is the truth in secret. This isn't the ultimate truth. This is not the truth. Just to be clear, I'm not going to be one of these guys that at the end goes, and you're the dot. It's not going to happen. This is the truth in secret. The truth is going to be revealed tonight. And you know who's going to reveal it? You are, to yourself. True story. So, okay. Now, let's move on to the order in the vortex, and then the biggie, feeling the knowing. Feeling the knowing. That is such a beautiful statement. Feel the knowing. If you want to know the feeling of speaking to yourself, feel the knowing. I need 5 minutes. I'll be right back. We're going to move into the order in the vortex. Stick around for this one. It's kind of great. And, it's going to be one of these talks that, like, this is where it gets a little bit deeper, a little bit heavier. We're going to be speaking about some religious stuff. We're going to be speaking about spooky Bible stuff. So Spooky Bible stuff is always fun when you're, some lunatic on the internet claiming that you have a stack of cardboard that has unlocked the secrets of the universe with a deadpan straight face, because it's true. So I'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll continue with the Order and the Vortex. Thanks a lot. I bring you the Order and the Vortex, the one truth. Bum bum bum. Okay, that's the end of the drama and the humor. You got to approach this stuff with a little lightness, or you're just gonna like float away because it's that intense. So that's why I do that. You're my favorite kind. That's interaction. And yes, actually, to Angel 420, if you're still here, yes, you're going to be speaking to an angel tonight. Tonight, you will be speaking to an angel. All right, what I want to do, now that we're in the idea of the Order and the Vortex, the one truth, is to talk about something that I've spoken about a few times in reference to the fact that the tarot, and i.e. this system specifically, since it's the stripped down version that actually gives us access to all of it, is this idea that using this code, you can unlock the Bible, you can unlock the Kabbalah, you can unlock the Sefer Yetzirah and the Talmud, you can unlock Zohar. There's so much that it gives you access to. Pretty much, not pretty much, the totality of accessible human phenomena. That includes the Bible. And I'm about to prove it. So far, this is the third day in a row I'm reading from this little book called The Upper Room. This is something that we give out in our church. Full disclosure, I'm a deacon in a Christian church. Okay? I serve my community. I'm proud to. I worship in a Reformed Christian church, and we accept everyone, and that's the only reason that I actually work there, and do my work there, which is to help people find themselves, right? But anyway, we give this out, and it's called The Upper Room, which I love because it refers to the higher world as opposed to the lower world, right? It's a nice dichotomy, the way they named that. And for the past 3 days, I've been reading from it and showing you how it correlates to the Bible. And so the old way, yesterday's was clothe yourself with the new person created according to God's image. The way we talked about how it's, descends into this world and gets physically by descending the tree, right? That's what this is all about, is descending the tree. That's what we're trying to do. And then ascend when we reach the bottom. Now, guess what? We reach the bottom. Is that where we are right now? No, we're not at the bottom, actually. We're at a transitional period between the bottom and we're moving back up. We'll talk about that later. Because right before that middle point is the inner sanctum. That's the access point to that middle place to allow for the ascension to begin. That's the truth told openly, what I just said. That's not poetic. Now, here we are with today's. Let's read today's, September 25th, 2022. Isaiah 55. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not rely on your own intelligence. Now, about 3 days ago, I showed everybody a stone that I received as a gift from my pastor. I got this about a year ago because of some work that we were doing related to COVID, and she wanted to thank me, and she knew that it's one of my favorite Proverbs, Proverbs 3:5. Proverbs 3:5. Now, this is referring to Isaiah 55, verse 8 through 13. That's all Fibonacci, by the way. 5, 8, 13 is Fibonacci. 5 plus 8 is 13. Phi being the ratio. Phi is the name of God. Long story short, that's for the second numerology course. This today was like a dip in your toe in a sea the size of Neptune when it comes to numerology, what we discussed today. Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Okay, just to be clear. Isaiah 55, 8, 13 is referencing Proverbs 3:5. Okay? And I happen to have this in my possession for a year and showed it on a live stream 2 days ago. Seriously? Anyway. Why is that relevant to the Bible? Well, let's read that one more time. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Let's go there. This unlocks, this is the code to every book of knowledge written by human beings. That link that I shared before with Uncle, that goes to sacredtexts.org. Every book that's listed on that webpage, which is thousands of books of knowledge starting from the beginning of time, can be unlocked with this little pack of cards, and I'm about to prove it. So we're looking at trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Proverbs 3:5, okay? Now, let me show you. We just went through the story where we showed the ascent and the descent. And then I laid it out with all the cards so it was bigger and we can manipulate each piece individually, right? That's what these cards represent, these. And these cards are the map to decoding it, which I showed the actual secret to the inner sanctum yesterday, right? By folding, and putting them down where you can see the actual truth of here it is. This is the instructions for crafting the key to the inner sanctum. Okay, do you see that? This right here are the instructions for crafting the key to open the door to the inner sanctum. There it is. Okay, does everyone see that? Good. Now, let's review why this tool is so important. Okay? Because it gives us access to information. For instance, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Because of this cosmic flip due to the vortex and the divine order, and the fact that things get jumbled but these are pinned, means that these two get flipped in order. Instead of the divine order, they get flipped and then turned upside down, which means the divine mind of God is installed into our heart. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. And do not lean on your own understanding, our understanding. The profane mind of man is filled with the divine heart of God. So just to be clear, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. This quote, Proverbs 3:5, is referring to this exchange. That's why these are folded, by the way. These are folded on purpose in order that you are able to manipulate them so that you can access the code based on the book you're reading. And this is that quote. This is Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Okay, are we all clear? Right? I've known this for 20 years and I'm still blown away. All right? The absolute truth in it is undeniable. Now, I challenge anyone to a debate. Anyone. Neil deGrasse Tyson. On science, I challenge anyone on a debate. That's a particle physicist. I challenge anyone to a debate that is a theologian. I challenge anyone on a debate to any subject related to science, physics, art, math, music, theology, homeopathy, naturopathy, aromatherapy. You name it, it's here. And I'm happy to prove it to anyone who wants to have that conversation. And that's just one example of a random quote in a book that I completely, absolutely can find in this, because it's there. It just needs to be unlocked with the correct code. It has to be in order. If we did the normal order of the tarot up on top in the higher world, this would not have worked. This whole thing would not have worked, because this would have been a cup and a sword, and our mind would have been mind, our heart would have been heart, and this quote means nothing. Order matters. Order matters. Order matters. Order is first. Without order, nothing else works. The universe doesn't even manifest. It just poof. God becomes aware and then says, I'm better being unaware. I'm just going to go back to being Ein. Or Ein Sof Or. We're really Ein. So you get the gist. Okay? I'm sure some people read ahead. There's people who read ahead. That's tomorrow's if you want to read ahead. I don't know if you can see it on your device. If not, then join me tomorrow for the next order. Oh, wait, I have to put the graphics up. I'm trying to be silly. Wait. Order and the Vortex. The one truth. All kidding aside, do you understand how this can literally unlock all human knowledge? Okay, very good. So that said, let me check my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. Yeah, there's some other stuff here, but... All right, I'm going to ask 3 questions to the room. Yes, this is important, and this is going to lead right into Beautiful Soul. So here we go, okay? Really quickly, before we begin, I want to stop and warn everybody that what we're about to experience is nothing short of changing your life forever. This is not a joke. And if you're not ready, then leave now. Second, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and those 3 questions are here to lead you to the next stage, which is this thing happening. Okay? So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to ask everyone in the room if how they feel, if you have any questions. Otherwise, we're going to move forward. And I just am curious who's still here. So please just give me a thumbs up, a high, or any indication that you're still in the room. I'm just curious who's still here and listening. There's a couple of people in particular that I want to be experiencing this with me. And I would love to know that you're here, and it would make me feel good. If you're not, that's fine, and I will continue. Can I view? I'm not sure who else made it into made it back into the stream after it failed the first time. You know, it's a little stressful sometimes to not know when the stream drops. There's been several times where it's dropped, and it took a minute to realize that was happening. And we are expecting some weather, and this next stage is everything. And so I want to make sure that there's people still here. Yep. Okay. So Missy's obviously here because Missy commented, so that's good. And so I'm going to move forward. There's at least one person engaging, and that's what matters. Missy, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, okay? I'm going to ask you for the next period of time that's going to be short, because what we're about to experience is not a joke. I'm going to ask you to be a cup only for just a small period of time, and then there's going to be a point that I ask you to engage your sword, meaning that bring your mind into it. You're obviously a very intelligent person who has a deep connection to what we're talking about here. And that's important to me, that I know I'm speaking to somebody who's going to be open to it. But this information is also for those who aren't as studied and don't have the experience yet. And you don't need it. That's the point. So what I'm going to ask is that you please first continue to come to my streams every night, because I love your chats and I love reading your chats after the fact. Please continue to do that and engage. And secondly, for right now, though, take a seat, take a breath, and be open to what's about to happen. Because if you're not, it's not going to work for you. You got to get out of your head, okay? There's no sword involved in the beginning of this process. You simply become an open cup, okay? And that's all I need, is for you to be an open cup. And for anybody else that's out there that wants to experience this with us, you're about to change your life. This is the stage that we're moving into, the next stage, okay? And so what we just covered was the idea of the vortex, the order, and why that's important. And so I have 3 questions I want to ask you as far as this process of the up and down that we've been discussing all night, and the process of the fact that the March of the Courts is really just the story of your creation played out by the actors of the courts. This is your story. This is mine. Yours is different. This is mine based on the date. And I can show you yours. Call me if you want this spread. This is not free. Don't ask. But it's very useful for getting an insight on where you are. And if you want this spread, give me a call, and we'll go over the process. And more importantly, what I'd rather you do is call me and say, I want to do this spread for myself. Help me make this deck, and let's do this. Free. I will help you make the deck for free. Once it's produced, I'll be selling it. But for now, we need to spread this knowledge. So I'll help you make it for free. And if someone wants to help me, we can put together a tutorial to help the world make it for free. Okay. We talked about the idea of your story and number, which is just another lens for viewing our universe. We look at it through numbers. We look at it through colors. We look at it through tarot cards. We can look at your creation through cards, and the actors being the courts. We can look at that same story through numbers. And we can look at that same story through these cards. Now, why these cards instead of something else? Because they're not only a distilled down version. This is the culmination of 40 years of experience and 20 years of this particular specific truth, culminating into this polished, whittled, corrected, and here we are. And it's designed with one purpose in mind. Can you use it for tarot? Sure. Can you use it to access better understanding of the Bible? Absolutely. In fact, it's very good at that. But that's not what it's designed for. It's designed to do one thing. Give you the instructions for crafting the key to open the door to the inner sanctum. And in there is conversation with yourself. I call it soul talk. What is soul talk? Soul talk is the ability to hear the inner voice. The fact is that your soul is literally always talking to you. Always. But it gets drowned out by the world. We can't hear it because we try to hear it with our ears, and you can't do that. This gives you access to the truth, the knowledge of how to do that, the truth. This is one of the cards I haven't revealed yet. It's called the Mirror. Okay. Just put this like that. I revealed the bottom of this yesterday, but I'm going to do it again at the appropriate time. Okay? So what we're looking at here, just to be clear, are the instructions for building the key. And what do we say? These instructions for building the key is the truth in secret. And that's not what I want to do here. What I want to do is to tell you the truth told openly. I have said over and over again, and I've used the example of the Hierophant and the High Priestess when making this example. So let me pop up the Hierophant, and we're just going to have a quick little conversation. And the purpose of this conversation, hopefully, is to awaken you to a specific truth. And I say the word awaken for a specific reason, because here's the deal. I am not here to teach you anything. What I'm here to do is to convince you of something that you already know. I'm here to wake you up to something that you've always known. Okay, and that's what we're here to do. Now, the Hierophant is one of these cards that gets a lot of different definitions. Here's mine. The Hierophant and the High Priestess are two sides of the same coin, which we talked about tonight. And the Hierophant is the idea of lies told openly. Anyone who wants to can enter the church. Go on in. You can sit in the back and listen. You can talk to the pastor after the fact, during coffee hour, whatever you want to do. And they'll be happy to serve their lies at no charge. And there's a motivation behind that. And you don't need to be invited. Anyone can come in. But then there's and that's called the outer order. Education, government, religion, the zeitgeist, the worldview, that we are fed by the old way of thinking that's no longer effective. It's lies told openly. Can you see some truth in it? You can, but it's hard work to get through the whatnots and the who's-its. It requires theological training or having someone that you have access to that can do that for you or with you. But it's really, there's no truth. There's only answers. They have plenty of answers, but no truth. Most answers are wrong. Sorry. The High Priestess is the inner order. Not everybody can get in. You have to earn your way in through knowing and through invite. You have to be invited into the inner order. And to those who I haven't already talked to about this, you're invited. Anyone who would like to is now a member of the inner order. Congratulations. Welcome. And this is where I live. This is where I work. And whenever I've done readings, even something as trite as "Does he love me?" the message that I deliver is the truth in secret. By asking me a question and trusting your heart with my answer is an automatic self-initiation into my inner order, and I provide the truth in secret due to that contract. And I take it seriously. Now, that said, the High Priestess is useful. If it weren't for that place, that inner order, which I am a member of through self-initiation, I have not, other than the Freemasonry, I have not been a member directly of any body other than Freemasonry. However, it's still the truth in secret. There's no truth, only answers. Why? They're not lying to me. It's not secret because they kept it. It's secret because you can't be taught. It must be learned. You have to come to it on your own. And so that's what we're here to do. This tool can help us to do that. And I'm going to tell a story. The story I'm going to tell tonight is the story of me coming to this truth. And I want to warn you, I experienced an entity while going through this work. And it was really dark. And it was really strong. And it was really scary. And it really wanted to hurt me. And I drew it. And I'm going to show it to you tonight. And the reason that I want to do that is because I think it's important that you understand this process from the respect of what it took to get where we are, and the experiences that I went through to come to this place. And that it was not some trite experience of reading some books and coming to some conclusion. Real work had to take place. And I believe that I've achieved that and that I'm ready to share it. And so here we go. Is everybody ready? I drew some pictures as well that I'll be showing through the process before I revealed the image of this entity that I saw that led to this realization. The work that I was doing at the time is something that's called scrying. And scrying, another word for scrying, is the idea of channeling. They're the same thing. And what does that mean? It means that, again, this is the totality of human knowledge, so let's use it. It means that you are in the state of unification of the mind and heart working together. The mind and heart working together allows there to be an open channel of intelligence and then the communication of that. And so I can take in the knowledge and then disseminate it back out. And so this is the idea of channeling. There it is, okay? This is what channeling is. It's also scrying. Okay. So I was going through that process. And the goal of the scrying was to... I kept reading in these books, like Book 4 and some other books related to Kabbalah or Hermeticism specifically, and the idea of the Tree of Life, that there's this thing called the Abyss. And the Abyss is a dark, scary place. And there's a beast. And there's a beast that lives in the Abyss. Depending upon your pronunciation, Koranzan. Scary MFer, man. And they describe it, and I'm thinking, okay, because I've scried before, and I've been able to through that channeling process. This is not astral travel or, this is real, experiential, lucid. While you're awake, these things come to your mind because you're in the right state of mind. It doesn't need drugs. It doesn't need incense. Sometimes that will help you get into the right mindset, and I'm going to talk about that when I do private training in groups and individually. How to use these tools for it to work effectively instead of the kind of like lies told openly that we're fed. This entity was real, and I drew him, and you're going to see him tonight. So I was scrying, and I decided to go to scry the tree, and I was getting toward the abyss, and I began to approach, and I saw something. So I'm getting chills. This happened so long ago, and it still moves me, okay? So I'm, yeah, you're about to, the dark entity is real, and you're going to see him directly, and he may be fearful. And so I just wanted to warn people. I'm shaking. My hands are shaking. The memory of the image is still painful, even though, so I saw a mirror. And it took me a little bit, but I squinted for a minute. There's the dot. All right, don't worry about the dot. I saw the mirror, and I came up to the mirror, and I was a ways back from it. I would say maybe 10 feet. And I could see a figure in the mirror. Now, when you approach a mirror, right, you see the world behind you or whatever, like where you're coming, where you're coming from, and then you're here, right, and you're walking into the mirror, or in the bathroom when you're facing the mirror in the bathroom, and you're doing your shaving, brushing your teeth, whatever, your hair, your makeup. There's you, and then there's the reflection of you, and then there's the rest of the room behind you, right? And it has this kind of symmetry to it, right? You could even put a mirror halfway and do funky stuff, right? And so that's how a mirror looks. When you look in the mirror, that's how it looks, right? If you're looking at yourself in the mirror. So, but when and it's about 10 feet away. Man, this is intense. It's the size of a picture. This is very much, but not smaller, like the Harry Potter room kind of. It was big, but not that big. But it was that size. It was taller than me. And pretty wide. It was wider than it was tall. I forgot to mention that. That's an important point. It was wider than it was tall. Like a rectangle on its side, okay? And it was kind of bright, but it was like a weird bright. It was like I can't explain the combination of colors between like this like sickly yellow green into this like super, if this is a thing, warm blue. That was behind the picture frame, which was just stuck in space, was this warm blue. And behind me was in my space was a sickly yellow green, okay? Now, in the mirror was this entity looking back at me. However, he wasn't in front of me, he was over there, to the side of me. I'm looking into the mirror and there's nothing there, and to the side is this entity, so it's not a mirror. It's a window. And so I thought, okay, well, I was told this is going to be there. I was told that there's going to be this entity, and there's this process. I was trained in the process through my study to be prepared to face this creature. And so I began to get closer to the mirror, the window. And as I got closer, I expected him to, in return, get closer, but he didn't. He started backing up. And as I walked, he got further back. And then, so I started getting more confident as I got. And then I was right up at the glass. And he disappeared. And then the truth hit me. That was what I needed. I feel like I'm going to cry. This is real what happened, and I want you to experience it. I'm going to show him. I'm going to show you the picture, okay, guys? I approached from the right, and he was on the left looking out at me. And as I got closer, he got further away. Right before I couldn't see him anymore, I screamed as loud as I could, "What's your name?" His answer was, "Not I." That's what he said. "Not I." And there it was. He was me. Here's the point. It was a mirror. But just like the secret of the key to the inner sanctum, not only does it change places, but it reverses. Not like a normal mirror. He swapped places, and as I approached the mirror, he was moving back because I was seeing myself move back, right? Do you understand? I was looking at myself, but when it transfers through the abyss, everything gets opposite. So I was looking at a different version of me, the darker version, but it's not darker. It just appears that way. It turns out when you cross the abyss, I've been there. It's not dark. there's this veil in between that turns everything opposite, but it's not. It doesn't turn it opposite. It turns out it doesn't. What it does is it make it look opposite, sound opposite. Not I meant me. It came out opposite of what was being spoken. That was me standing here looking at me saying, you. And I heard not I from the side of a dark entity. It wasn't a dark entity saying not I. It was me in front of me saying you. This idea of the descent of God and us ascending at the same time is false. That's the secret. It's the truth, but it's the secret. Here's the truth. We are one thing going at the same time. And occasionally, when that infinity hits the middle and those lines connect, conversation. And what that means is that there's one being. You're not talking to yourself. There's only one. And it's you. And so I have this picture here that I drew to illustrate that. Of me walking up and seeing this dark entity. A normal mirror flips the direction, but it doesn't flip the up and down. It only flips in one direction. It doesn't flip side to side either. Right? It just mirrors. It doesn't actually flip everything like you would if you were to turn a whole thing around, right? But this one did. And then it dawned on me that that's what all of this is all about. The way to speak to your higher self is to recognize that you don't have one. You are the higher self. The way that you hear the voice of God is to realize that there isn't a voice of God. That's your voice. And this is the code to hear that. You want to hear the voice of God? Stop listening with your mind, like thinking about what you're going to hear. The voice of God descends into the heart. Whose voice is that? It's yours. Here's the 3 questions. During the crucifixion, what is the crucifixion? God descending to the earth as a human being, living his life in the middle, and then ascending through death. What is death? The destruction of the self. What is the self? The lie you've been told about your identity. It's not who you are. Who are you? Who you choose to be every moment. You don't have an identity. You're an infinite being who lives at the end of time, who was born at the beginning, looking back, waiting for you to catch up to yourself. What does this give us access to? The truth. What is that truth? That all of this is a lie. None of this ever happened. It's not happening. It's all a dream in the mind of the divine mind. Whose? Yours. Who was crucified? That's my first question. Who was crucified, right? We all know the story. Who was crucified? Jesus Christ was crucified. God descended, walked as Jesus. Jesus was crucified, and then through the transfiguration, ascended to the higher world, back home. That's the truth in secret. Here's the truth openly. You were. And you're going to do it again and again and again. Because what is the sacrifice? The sacrifice is the willing giving in to the tower. I've talked about it over and over on the channel here. The tower is the inevitable destruction of the personality. So that you can not heal, transform. Healing is going back to the way you were, making something what it used to be. That's not going to work here. What you need to do is be open to transformation, becoming something else. What is that something else? The union. Not going back to where you were, which was God descending. When you get back to the top, you will be a greater being. God plus one. Second question. Who ate the apple? Now, we're very familiar with this story, right? Adam and Eve in Eden. Who ate the apple? Was it Eve? Or was it Adam? Eve, right? Yeah, it was Eve. The adversary, in the form of some type of animal, a serpent of some type, said, hey, eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Well, no, God said, don't eat from the tree of knowledge. You can eat from the tree of life. The tree of life you may eat from. Eat from the tree of life. This is the tree of life, by the way. but never eat from the tree of knowledge. Because in the tree of knowledge is the ability to be like God. The power to be like God. And what does God do? God bestows, creates, listens, talks. God is the talker and we're the listener. God is the talker and we're the listener. The fact of the matter here is at the end of the day, God chose to descend, and through that process chose to manifest his personality as Adam and Eve, because that's who we all are. We're all a piece of that. And as Eve, she might have been unaware of that because she thought she was in her lower self and didn't realize that it's the will of the divine that actually moves this world. He, God, the higher self, ate that apple on purpose. Why? To be thrown out of Eden so they can manifest physically, so he can continue the descent. And he didn't want to go alone, so he took Adam with him. And that union, that's an important union. The one becoming the two. And that three, the original mother letters, the elements, the first, those three tarot cards of the original majors, Aleph, Mem, Shin, which is the Fool, the Hanged Man, the Sacrifice, the Crucifixion, and Judgment. Then manifested the physical world underneath, the 7 planets, the 12 signs. It's all here. And at the end of that process, manifested physically in the world. First is Christ consciousness and so forth. And then at some point, you. That's right, you. Yes. The descent happened. God is not in heaven right now. God is on earth right now. Waiting at the end of time for you to catch up. The story's been told. We know the end. The end is you get back to God and you live forever in bliss. True story. How do I know? I lived it. And so did you. Now we have the power to rewrite the story in between. That's the beautiful magic here. The story's over, but we're in the middle of rewriting it. Whew. Isn't that awesome? Careful what you write. We have the ability to create. Careful what you create. Third question. Who is listening to this right now? Who is listening to this? It's not you. It's not Missy. It's not Uncle. It's not Michael. I'm not talking. None of this is happening. Who's listening? Who is in the state of listening? You. And who is that? God. God is in a state of listening right now. How do I know? Because man is speaking. A man is speaking means God is listening. Do you understand? Changes the whole definition of prayer, doesn't it? You're the one listening, which means God's the one listening. Who's actually listening to this? You. Who's the one who ate the apple? You. You ate the apple. You're Eve. Who made the decision to begin the descent to begin with? You did. You spoke the word. It's not a window, it's a mirror. No, it's a window. No, it's both. It's both. It's a window, it's a mirror, it's both. The abyss is a lie, and it's the grandest lie. It is the lie that makes us think that there is a them and us, that we are traveling on different sides of the tree going up and down, separate from each other, and when we're down here, he's up there, and when we're up there, he's down there. It doesn't work that way. It's one being going through the process that meets in the middle and remembers in that moment that it's one. But when we shift through the mirror, we look down, and since it's a weird mirror, we see it shifted and different, and we think that there's two beings, but it's not. It's just the mirror making us think that. The mirror doesn't exist. It turns out it doesn't exist. All you got to do is walk through it. That's literally it. There's no code word. There's no secret to this phoenix. There's nothing that you have to do for the manticore. Just walk through. It's not even there. And the minute you do, you recognize, I'm alone. I've always been alone. There is nobody else. This entire universe is really just playing out in front of me, and I'm just the observer of it. However, I get to rewrite that story while I'm in the middle. I want to go back to the middle and rewrite that, and you make the decision to descend. You see how that works? Welcome to the inner sanctum. The cup of God spilling down His divine love on the sword of man. This is the sword. See the tip of the sword? See the cup upside down pouring? The sword of God instilling divine intelligence into the heart of us. Man, that's beautiful. Are you kidding me? The divine feminine pouring down her love upon the profane wand. There's the image of God. Remember, that's not a penis. God's a woman. The pentacles. The union of the two pentacles. That space is intentional. And we'll talk about that in a different stream. And in the middle here, we have the idea of the rotation, the switch, and the reverse. This is the truth told openly about the mirror. The mirror showed me everything not only in reverse, but sideways. And unless you realize that, you'll never come to the truth. That's why, as I walked toward it, it walked away. And it wasn't in front of me, but to the side. This entity you're looking at is as real as me, because it is. It is me. It still exists. Just not in that form. It never existed in this form. This was an illusion created by that window in between the higher and the lower world, the abyss. That's actually not real. The creature isn't real. Don't be afraid. That's the truth told openly. I'm here. I have done the reading. So you don't have to. I did the scrying on the tree, which is really hard, so you don't have to. I spent probably a decade of my life awake doing numbers on paper and finding patterns so that this can be created, so you don't have to. You don't have to do it, because I did it. All you have to do is feel the knowing. Feel the knowing. You're feeling, God's knowing. Feel the knowing. Aleister Crowley called it conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. I call it soul talk because conversation, talk. Holy Guardian Angel. Yeah, that's what it is. Soul. The real soul is that wand on top. That's the real soul. Okay? Which is represented by the dot. The one before it became the line, which is the sword, the cup, the pentacle. The original knowing is the will. And the will manifested the divine intelligence to install into our hearts. That is the purpose. That is what we were created to do. If you want to know the feeling of speaking to yourself, feel the knowing. I expect to hopefully have this deck done soon. As far as of what I need to get done to have it printed, and I need help with that. I made the offer yesterday and the day before, and I'm going to make it every stream until I find it. There's a person out there that's going to help me with this. I believe they might be female. I believe they are round and about my age, or maybe older. I showed a picture of her. This is not her. This is her. Just to be clear, I showed this without revealing the secret. Now that I've given the full truth told openly, this is her face. But this is not her face. This is her face in the mirror. So those with the eyes to see and the ears to hear can see this for what it really is and know if it's you or not. And if it's you, call me. We have work to do. We have an entire planet to wake up as soon as possible before babies keep dying. Seriously? Completely innocent people losing their lives at dozens at a time. And it's a blip in the news that and we move on with our lives. No, I'm not okay with that. And it's time that we do something. And how do we do that? Anything that we've done so far hasn't worked. And the reason is that we're not applying the code. We're not communicating in the proper way. Prayer with the intent of speaking without hearing back is ridiculous. That's not prayer. That's answers. Pray. Who do you pray to? Yourself. This isn't self-worship. You are me. We all need each other. We are all little pieces. When we descended and went through that abyss, we broke into pieces on the way down. And each one of us is a little piece of that. That's the truth told openly. That's not a secret. That's the truth. I am you. I am talking to myself. I need your help. Help me. Help me. We can wake up the rest of the world. And each time two people get together and realize this truth together, the third happens faster and there's an acceleration, and 5 become 13 and 13 become 21, 34, 55 until we have the whole planet. We have to do this. I need your help. Join me. We can do this together. This is not a joke. Anyone who experienced this last night and was woke up, let me know. And if you didn't and need a little push, contact me. This is not a joke. I will provide this service to anybody who needs it. And the purpose of the deck is to elicit this in yourself at home. Just take it. It's going to come with instructions. It's going to come with the wheel. Bring you through the entire process of understanding the order, understanding the vortex, knowing that algorithm in and out, the deck itself, and the instructions for building the key. I need someone to help me build it. Anyone who thinks that they're the one, please do me a favor and contact me in whatever way you're able, and we'll go from there. I am running full speed. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Have a good night.